Hello everyone and welcome to another video. My name's Keir Smith and today's video is one that I've been meaning to do for a couple of weeks now. My good man Mike over at MGK Boston asked me to do this video, asking me to talk about the 5 best Britpop bands that I could think of. And I really like Mike. He's a great host, he runs a great channel, MGK Boston. I'll leave a link down in the description box below for you to go and check him out. I follow his channel regularly. Every time he posts a Friday Cheers video, I'm keen to view it. And so when he asked me to do this video, I was keen to oblige, and I'm only sorry that it's taken me a few weeks to get around to it. The Britpop years. Floppy hair, bootcut jeans, Adidas trainers, Adidas tracksuit tops, lad culture, CDs, bands, booze, football, girls and drugs. Though I was only 13, soon to be 14 years old when Britpop hit the British charts in a big way, so the girls, the booze and the drugs came much later for me. But it was a big scene and it was exciting times, and there were guitar bands everywhere coming out with great songs with loud, catchy and anthemic choruses. So the first band that I'm going to talk about is where it all started for me, and that is Oasis. I remember clear as day, me and my older brother Craig going round to our friend Simon's house, and we knew that he had a copy of Oasis, Definitely Maybe, on cassette, and we asked if we could borrow it. We got the tape, we went home and we played that album so many times. Here it is in CD format, the debut album by Oasis, Definitely Maybe, one of the most loved British albums of all time. Quite simply, Oasis were where it was at. They were cool. Led by the Gallagher brothers, of course. They said it, they meant it, and they didn't give up what anyone thought. And for young teenage lads growing up on council estates in the 90s, it was empowering. And, of course, they wrote the best songs. On this album alone, they had amazing songs like Rock and Roll Star, Live Forever, Columbia, Supersonic, Bring It On Down, Slide Away. Now, admittedly, at 14 years old, I hadn't heard much music at all, really, but I thought these songs were amazing, and my older brothers did too, and their mates did too. It's like we were one big army. Everyone loved Oasis. So Definitely Maybe was released in August 1994, so just over a year later the band released their second album, What's the Story Morning Glory, which has gone on to become one of the best British selling albums of all time. I think it's in the top 5. They did it again with, in some cases, even better songs. The songs Hello and Morning Glory are among my favourite Oasis songs, and you've got the hit single Roll With It, which sadly lost out to Blur's Country House in the Battle of the Bands chart battle. Country House getting the #1 spot, Roll With It stalling at number 2. On What's the Story Morning Glory you've got Wonderwall, which honestly I was never that big on, but crikey, everyone else is. Don't Look Back in Anger is a great song. Some might say Champagne Supernova. By this point, Oasis were, without doubt, one of the biggest bands in the world. I think it's fair to say that these 2 albums were the biggest albums of the Britpop era, and whilst I think they went on to do better work later on in their career, there's no doubt that these 2 are their most cherished works. So the second band that I'm going to talk about is Blur, who were seen as Oasis adversaries, or that's the way it was being built up in the British press. It certainly helped both bands to sell a lot more records, put it that way. But this album, Parklife, was a huge album for the band, and this was Blur's 3rd album, and it came out in April 1994, which preceded Oasis' debut album, Definitely Maybe, by some 4 months. And Parklife was a huge album, and at the annual Brit Awards, Blur won 3 or maybe even 4 awards, I think. And Blur were different to Oasis. If Oasis were all out rock and roll, then Blur were more thoughtful, more considered, and a bit quirky with their music. Blur's musical palette spread a lot wider than Oasis, and that's one of the things that I love about Blur. It seemed to me that every time Blur released a single, it was very much different to the single that had come before it. And again, there's loads of great songs on this album. The 4 singles were fantastic. Girls and Boys, End of a Century, Parklife, To the End. Other good songs on Parklife include Bad Head, Trouble in the Message Centre, This Is a Low, Clover Over Dover is a great song. And then just shy of a year and a half later, in September 1995, they followed up Parklife with their next album, The Great Escape, And I'm sorry that I don't have the CD to show you, which is annoying really, because this album is my favourite album of the whole Britpop era. It's up there in my music room somewhere, hiding. Oh, I love this album so much. I return to it often and I think it is the masterpiece of the Britpop era. It's brilliant. Again, the 4 singles released from this album were absolutely brilliant. Country House was great. The Universal, what a wonderful song that is. Stereotypes, Charmless Man, both great. Other songs that I love from that album are Best Days, Top Man, He Thought of Cars, Entertain Me, Yuko and Hero. And all of those songs that I've just mentioned were very different from each other in terms of style, tempo and the music. Blur are the most interesting Britpop band as far as I'm concerned. Lead singer Damon Albarn is a bit of a national treasure for me. Of course, he went on to form Gorillaz and they sold more albums than even Blur did. He's such a clever and interesting songwriter. And the third band I'd like to talk about is Pulp, led by their charismatic frontman Jarvis Cocker. And Pulp had been going for years and years and years and had a string of albums in the 80s without much success. In fact, I think that they formed way back in the late 70s. But their breakthrough came with this album in April 1994. I think this album got into the top 10 in the UK charts. This is His and Hers. They had a big hit single with a song called Do You Remember the First Time, which was a really good song. I really like that. And they had minor hits with a couple of other singles called Babies and Lip Gloss, I think. A couple of other songs that I really like on this album are Joyriders and Acrylic Afternoons is a great one. But their big breakthrough came just over a year and a half later with the release of their Different Class album. And it is, as the title suggests, Different Class. This would be in my top 5 Britpop albums. It's a great album. One of the best things about the Britpop era was the single would be released, followed by the album, and then there'd be another 3 or maybe even 4 singles after that, and it would give the album this longevity. And on these singles there would be B-sides, maybe 2 or 3 B-sides in some cases. CD singles would have 4 songs on them, and you'd scratch your head and think, now why wasn't that one put on the album? Oasis in particular wrote some of the best B-sides. So again, the singles on Different Class were absolutely brilliant. Misshapes, Common People, Sorted for Ease and Whiz, Something Changed, Disco 2000, all big hit singles. And obviously certain people in certain quarters tried to put their foot down and get the song Sorted for Ease and Whiz banned, but it didn't work and it only helped sell the single even more. And stylistically, I'd say that Pulp were a bit like Blur. They were a bit quirky and a little bit odd at times, and definitely a bit murky. Lots of sexual references and drug references, which, again, we all thought was cool. And do you remember Jarvis Cocker invading the stage at the 1996 Brit Awards and interrupting Michael Jackson's performance of the Earth song? Yeah, he got up on stage and shook his bum at the crowd in disapproval, I think. I think he actually got arrested for that. Something to do with assaulting some of the children performing with Michael Jackson. But I think it was much to do about nothing and he was cleared without charge. So again, we all thought, cool man. But yeah, I really like Pulp. I actually think their best album came in 1998. This Is Hardcore. Give that a listen. That's a great album. The fourth band that I'd like to talk about is Suede. Now, lead singer Brett Anderson always tried to distance the band from the Britpop tag. He said, and I quote, Britpop was a laddish, distasteful, misogynistic, nationalistic cartoon, and he once called Oasis the singing plumbers. But Suede were actually the darlings of the music press, even before they released their self-titled debut album in March 1993, which is a really good album. And they released their second album, Dogman Star, in October 1994, just as Britpop was about to get into full swing. But as popular as it was, Dogman Star doesn't sound anything like a Britpop album if you ask me. If Brett Anderson wanted to distance himself from the Britpop tag, then he was doing a good job of it. And then the band released their third album, coming up in September 1996, and this was a 10-song collection of unashamed pop songs with catchy choruses, and it seemed to fit in with the Britpop crowd. And it boasted as many as 5 top 10 UK singles, with Trash and Beautiful Ones being the pick of the bunch and the 2 biggest songs for the band. But Saturday Night was a great song. I didn't so much like Lazy or Film Star. They were two lesser singles for me. I wasn't a big fan of Suede growing up, but when they released this album, I jumped on board. I thought this was a really good offering. But I lost interest with them because the follow-up album, Head Music, I didn't like much at all. But I would definitely recommend their self-titled debut album and Dogman Star, especially Dogman Star. That's a really good album. The four bands I've mentioned, according to the music press, are regarded as the big four of Britpop. And it's definitely true that the four frontmen of those bands were the ones adorning the covers of the many music magazines of the day. So the fifth and final band that I'd like to talk about is a group called Cast, led by frontman John Power, who was a former member, bass player I think, of the group The Laws, if you can remember them. They released one great album and disappeared. Now in comparison to Liam Gallagher, Damon Albarn, Jarvis Cocker and Brett Anderson, John Power was a largely unassuming fellow. And they released their debut album, All Change, in October 1995, and sound-wise these were more similar to Oasis, I'd say. And this album spawned 4 hit singles. The songs Sandstorm and Alright were really good songs, and they had another hit single with a song called Fine Time and a lovely ballad called Walk Away, which again everyone seemed to love. Another couple of really good songs on that album are Promised Land and the excellent Four Walls. And they followed that up with an even better album in September 1997 with their second album, Mother Nature Calls. And again, this album spawned another 4 hit singles. Honestly, back in those Britpop days, every time a band released a single, it seemed to be top 20, if not top 10, top 5, or in Oasis' case, a lot of the time, topping the charts. The songs Free Me and Guiding Star were up-tempo rockers, good songs, and they released this wistful single called Live the Dream, which contains one of my favourite lyrics of all time. Someone will always be more than I'll ever be, so then I'll be myself. And they released a lush orchestral ballad called I'm So Lonely, which is a bit of a heartbreaker. Absolutely love that song. Other good songs on Mother Nature Calls are Soul Tide, Mirror Me, I really like that, and the closing track, Dance of the Stars. Yeah, this is another album I'd recommend. In fact, I'm going to give it a spin tomorrow. Check it out, Mother Nature Calls by Cast. So there you go, Mike. Oasis, Blur, Pulp, Suede and Cast. The 5 best Britpop bands according to me. And all 5 bands had one-word names, and it must have been a bit of a thing at the time, because if I look over my shoulder, there's a few other bands that had one-word names too, like Ash, Gene, Supergrass. Anyway, hopefully I haven't gone on for too long, but you know me, I like to give a bit of context. And thanks a lot, Mike, for putting me up to do this video. I quite enjoyed doing this video. It was a bit of a trip down memory lane. And thanks to everyone who stopped by and watched this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you for my next video sometime soon. Until then, bye for now.